During these last 6 weeks of unprecedented events related to this pandemic, I've tried to stick to the headlines, as it were, when it comes to information intake. I've tried to become introduced to this virus through people who have made medicine their career. I've tried to understand the potential financial fallout that lies ahead through people who have made economics their career. Anything else from anyone else, I've considered a temptation I should avoid, especially because this all occurred in the middle of Great Lent. Having said that, I ask your forgiveness because I'd actually like to share something else from someone else, as it means to help us understand a part of the fullness of Great Lent that we may not focus on from year to year. On April 13th, the governor of New York reported a drop in COVID-19 deaths, and he asserted that, quote, "The number is down because we brought the number down. God did not do that. Faith did not do that. Destiny did not do that. A lot of pain and suffering did that." End quote. And that's why I've tried to stay away from information overload. As the amount of information increases, the quality usually decreases. When I heard this statement on the radio, I read an article or two to make myself more familiar with the correct context in which it was made. And then I considered an even better context. The statement was made at the beginning of Holy Week, when the Old Testament books of Exodus, Job, and the prophets are featured in the Orthodox Church services. Exodus recounts Moses meeting God and learning his name, "I am the existing one," and discovering God's covenant to deliver his people and be their God forever, promising that he will have mercy and compassion on whom he will have mercy and compassion, which means that part is his business and not ours. When Moses requests God reveal himself, God replies, "You shall see my back, but my face shall not be seen." The Orthodox Study Bible compares this to the teaching that we know God in his glory or energy, but not in his essence. Job, whose name means persecuted, parallels Christ as a righteous man who suffered innocently. Job was pious, patient, thankful to God for all things. And then God allowed Satan to afflict Job so that his faithfulness would be proven. He loses his possessions, children, and health, yet remains steadfast with God, even as he asks God to speak with him face to face, wondering if God sees as man sees. After a lengthy discussion between Job and his friends, God's answer to Job out of the whirlwind is to ask him questions like, "Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? And will you condemn me that you may be justified?" After God highlights the creation process, Job humbly responds, "I have uttered what I did not understand, things too wonderful for me, which I did not know." Sobering and reflective readings from the prophets include Isaiah's suffering servant, who says, "I gave my back to the smiters, my cheeks to those who pulled out the beard. I hid not my face from shame and spitting." Ezekiel's commission to prophesy to the people about whom God says, "Be not afraid of their words, nor dismayed at their looks, for they are a rebellious house. And you shall speak my words, whether they hear or refuse to hear." Jeremiah's lament concerning those he angered with his prophecies. They devised schemes saying, "Let us cut him off from the land of the living, that his name be remembered no more." Each Great Lent, and especially Holy Week, the Old Testament readings remind us of God's repeated efforts to bring his beloved but stiff-necked people back to himself when they continually and unfaithfully make their own selfish decision to seek after other gods to serve for earthly gains that will fade away. When his prophets fail to get the message across, What God does do is send his own Son to be born in the flesh in order to save that which is made in his image and likeness. What faith in that statement does do is bring God's people, which now includes us and our stiff necks, back to him in anticipation of his kingdom. And in saving his people, his Son most certainly experienced a lot of pain and suffering. And for some of us, pain and suffering in this world just may be the medicine needed for our eternal salvation. We are, after all, called to take up our cross and follow Christ. I know the church calendar says we're past Holy Week, but many of us now have some time we weren't expecting. So hopefully a portion of that will go to enriching the relationship with our Creator through reading His Holy Scripture. And in these challenging days surrounding a rather unique Paschal celebration, let's always give thanks and keep two things in our heart and soul and mind amidst all this uncertainty. Our ways are not God's ways, and Christ is risen from the dead, trampling down death by death, and upon those in the tombs bestowing life.